In this project, we're going to deploy Postgres using Azure's fully managed database service, Postgres Flexible Server. This platform allows you to run production-grade Postgres databases in the cloud without worrying about infrastructure management, high availability, or maintenance operations. We'll walk through provisioning a Postgres Flexible Server using Terraform. You'll learn how to configure custom virtual networks, secure the deployment with a private DNS zone, enable subnet delegation, which is required for private access. To make the database easier to access and manage, we'll also deploy an Ubuntu VM running pgweb. Pgweb is a lightweight web-based Postgres client. It's a little bit similar to pgadmin, but more lighter weight. This allows you to securely connect to your Postgres Flexible Server and run queries right from your browser. To make the environment easier to test and explore, we'll also deploy the Pagila sample database. This is a well-known database that's out there on the web. You can use ChatGPT to ask about this database. You can Google it. It models a DVD rental store. So this gives you realistic data to query, and we include some non-trivial queries to do joins and whatnot to help validate your infrastructure. Throughout the project, we'll learn how to automate every step using infrastructure as code and Terraform with shell scripts. We'll apply best practices for security, scalability, and network isolation using Terraform. By the end of this project, you'll have a complete Postgres Flexible Server deployment you can adapt for your own projects. Okay, let's talk about the architecture diagram for this project. So we're in the US Central Region. The first thing we do is we create a virtual network, the Postgres VNet, for everything we're going to build. And within that virtual network, we have two subnets. Remember, subnets in Azure are done by function. So here's a good example of it. The first function is we have a Postgres subnet, and that's where we're going to deploy the Postgres Flexible Server instance. It's a private instance, so we had to include the private DNS zone, which allows it to have a DNS name, which you'll see when we build it. And it's only accessible within the virtual network. So then we have the VM subnet. And here is where we run the pgweb. But when this instance boots up in custom data, the first thing it's going to do is going to load the Pagila database into the Postgres instance. And then after that, it's going to start pgweb, run it on port 80, which is the default HTTP port. And it allows you to log into the Postgres database, see tables, and run them. So while the database is private here, the VM, we attach a public IP to the VM. So the way we're going to interact with this is we're going to fire up a web browser after it's built. We're going to go through this public IP address, and then it's going to connect to the pgweb VM and the pgweb application. And when you do that, you're going to enter in the DNS entry for the Postgres server and the user ID and password, and then you'll be able to interact with the database from the web. Now we have also a Key Vault deployed. In the Key Vault, we have two sets of credentials. We have the Postgres credentials. In the demo, you'll see us go there, grab those Postgres credentials and use them. And then for the VM, we have the admin credentials also stored in the Key Vault. We don't really do anything that's mostly for debugging, but I just like to put all my credentials into a Key Vault. Okay, now let's talk about what exactly this PostgreSQL Flexible Server is. Now, historically, Azure offered two deployment options for PostgreSQL, Flexible Server and Single Server. You could kind of think like this is the same dichotomy in AWS with Aurora versus RDS. However, Azure has essentially phased out their single server as of March 2025. So really the only choice for new deployments is the PostgreSQL Flexible Server. And so it offers additional features than the standard SQL. And I guess we have a chart here comparing it, but there's really no point in comparing the thing that's no longer there. It has a much more high availability features. It allows you to scale horizontally in addition to vertically. It provides more maintenance over your patching. So you can specify tighter periods and when it happens. It also scales better with that horizontal scaling. This is an interesting one. Like with VMs, you can stop a VM and you're only paying for the storage in a lot of these platform providers. You can do the same thing with the databases, you can stop it from running and you're just paying for storage, which is good for development environments if you're trying to save costs, or a channel like this is. Again, the high availability features with geo redundancy is all supported with Flexible Server. So you can really think of Aurora and Flexible Server as very similar kind of implementations with where the cloud provider has added their secret sauce. And so you really must use Flexible Server at this point. Okay, now let's talk about the prerequisites to build this project. First off, there's a video out there called Azure and Terraform Easy Setup, which walks you through a very simple project that just has one VM. It set up all the things in Azure you need. And so what do you need? You use an Azure account, and in the Azure account, you need to create a managed identity for doing the actual Terraform builds. You'll get a set of UUIDs and environment variables you need to set. Then once you have that, you can install the AZ CLI. The AZ CLI is what we use in the shell scripts for managing the steps in between the builds, the stuff that's not in the Terraform. And then finally, you need to have the latest Terraform version. Okay, so let's download the code and build the project. So I'm going to copy here and go to my Ubuntu development environment and paste. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the check env script, and that's going to go through and validate all the different things that we require. We also require JQ, but that's usually installed anyway. So it validates that everything's set. These 4 environment variables are set, and then we logged into Azure. So at this point, what you want to do is run the apply script. Now, the apply runs the build, and the build takes between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, the build has completed. So what we're going to do is bring up the console, and let's look at what actually got built. So the first thing that got built was the resource group. So the resource group name for this project is Postgres RG. So you click on that. And you go in here, and let's just walk through the various elements. The first one is the credentials vault. So if I go in that, and you can see I have secrets, and eventually access this. So if you go in and look at your secret, and you show secret value, you will see that it, it has the passwords, which we'll use in a bit. I am going to open a new tab because I want to leave that up because we're going to use that next. So the next element in the resource group is the pgweb VM. And so with that, you've got the network interface card, the public IP address, and the disk. So look at that briefly. We've got the DNS name for the server, which we will connect to during the demo, and it's running on port 80. And let's go back to here. We won't go into the network card and the IP addresses. We'll go to the Postgres instance. This is the flexible server instance. This is, I think Azure calls it DB as a service, but I consider this also platform as a service. So you can see all the different settings, the things that the platform or the DB as a service handles for you, like maintenance. You can set the maintenance windows, when to run your updates. I'm not configured for high availability, but I could just do boom, and then it would give me the I chose a smaller compute tier, so I can't do that with this. We have replication, so just like Aurora, you can have replications of your database. I doesn't support it in the tier that I'm using. Other thing that's interesting is it actually shows you your databases. The other providers don't provide this level of database, so I can see my databases in here. We're going to access that using the web interface. And then we've got the networking. We're attached to the VM, VNet integration. And then we've got the virtual network and subnet that we're using. So that's pretty much it for the settings of the Postgres Flexible Server instance. Okay, so now it's time to do the demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the build environment. I'm going to hit clear, and I'm going to run validate.sh, and that's going to give me my pgweb server and the hostname instance. So I'm going to take this guy right here, copy it, and I'm going to bring up a new browser page, and it should come up and say, hey, which database do you want to connect to? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my validate output, and we also output the DNS entry. This is what we needed the private DNS zone for to attach to this zone. The other thing too is when you create your instance, it has to be the name has to be unique for this DNS zone. So the first time I did it, I did a Postgres instance, and it said, hey, somebody's already doing that. So that's something to keep in mind is the name of the flexible server instance has to be unique. And I just create a random suffix when I need to do that. So let's copy this in here with the suffix and go back to here. And we'll say, the username is Postgres. The password, remember we had the Key Vault here for the Postgres credentials. We're going to click on that, hit copy, put it into here, and then the database is Pagila. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So I'm going to click on connect, and it's going to show you all the tables. So these are, let's talk about, there's a film. It's a list of movies in this DVD store. They're all made up, and the names are kind of funny if you look at them. So you got the names of the movies. There's payment, what's been checked out. Then there's the actor, and everything has these actor IDs, these keys, the film IDs, etc. So what we've done is in the documentation, we've got a couple of queries which we'll look at. And that's going to do some non-trivial, they're not too complicated, but they're non-trivial joins. So the first one is going to join the actors in the film. So you'll get a list of actors and what films are in. So I'm going to copy that in, put it into pgweb. Let's see, run query, and you're going to see, oh, okay, there's all these people in the movie. And again, the names are kind of funny. Nobody's real in here, but they took first names and last names and mixed them up. So they're kind of funny. So that's one join that we can do. Another join we can do is very similar. We'll go back into here. And you can see it's the same idea, except we have the movie first, and then you have a comma-separated list of all the, IDs, or all the actors. Instead of, a long list, it's a more flatter list. So that's it for the database. Like I said, you can go to ChatGPT and ask it all about this database if you want to learn more about the types of joins, if you need a demo to test some features. This is a good database to start from. Okay, now we want to be a good steward of our cloud accounts. These servers are not cheap, particularly if you start adding, replication and other things that can run up a big bill. So what you want to do is be a good steward of your cloud account and do destroy sh. Now, the destroy also takes about 10-15 minutes.